So hind milk versus foremilk. Maybe you have heard about this, maybe you haven't. But there is a pretty big difference, and I'll explain why it actually matters. So foremilk is more of a watery consistency, and it's high in lactose or sugar, and it typically tends to be the milk that comes out from your breast earlier on in the feed, and it's what we know as like the thirst quencher. It'll help to quench their thirst early on. Hind milk is creamier and higher in fat content, so that'll typically be later on in the feed. It's higher in calories and helps babies stay full longer. So what happens when there's an imbalance? So the baby's getting too much foremilk too quickly, for example. That can happen if you have an oversupply or you're going too long between feeds. So you get really full in your breast. Unfortunately, getting too much foremilk too fast can actually lead to a more gassy baby, green and frothy poops, because that's excess lactose or sugar that's fermenting in the gut, and more frequent hunger because it's not as satiating. When it's just high in sugar, they're gonna get that quick burst, but it's not gonna keep them full for long periods of time. So a couple of helpful tips to address this is, first, you may want to feed on one side until empty before switching. That way the baby can get the foremilk and the hind milk. If you keep switching from side to side, for example, they nurse on this side, but you're not emptied, and then you switch here, they might just get a whole bunch of foremilk, and that can cause some issues. Tip number 2, if you do have an oversupply, you may want to try expressing some foremilk about an hour before feed so they don't get as much foremilk and reduce that imbalance a little bit. If you do have an oversupply and you're pumping a lot, you may want to reduce your pumping a little bit, because oversupplies can not only cause this issue, but it can increase your risk of things like mastitis, for example. That's something you really want to avoid because it can get quite serious sometimes. And if feeding challenges continue, you're having a lot of issues with gassy baby and an oversupply that you can't control, for example, you may want to consult a lactation consultant or find a La Leche League leader near you for extra support. So I'll put some of those resources down in the description box. Maybe they'll be able to help. If you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up so that I know. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.